All right, evening, everybody. It's it's sorry, that was I don't know what okay I don't even know I didn't even get like 2 words into it before I screwed up the intro this time. Uh, okay, it's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast. It's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? Do you need some cough
I
syrup
should
or
probably get something like a glass of water or something. I don't know. I feel like I had got like sudden stage fright or something, and my throat closed up.
have you ever been on a stage before? Or have you ever performed in front of people or
Once or
oh,
twice,
okay.
occasionally in front of a few hundred people, occasionally. So this sort of streaming thing where it's mostly just you or me, though, like that's a different basket of worms, or
I'm
like
glad
that's
you're
not a thing.
healthy. I'm glad you're doing okay.
Yeah, yeah, I'm doing all right. How about you?
Can't complain.
No,
Just plugging away. Another day, another Monday,
you can
another
always
stream.
complain. You can always complain. Don't
Yeah,
don't sell yourself short, my friend. There's
yeah.
always ways to find something to complain about.
Um, yeah, so I can get into where we left off last week.
Yeah, you might as well take over the screen.
Sure.
Words, language. It's
All right.
complicated.
Go. In our last exciting episode, kind of left off here.
Recognize that fellow.
Yeah, and I haven't really worked on Clem all that much since we last talked. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I want to play with this color scheme and everything else. There's still something I want to do with his face, maybe a little bit, maybe slim it a little bit. Some other things I would like to do, but then I started kind of getting, as we kind of were leaving the stream, I started wanting to kind of play with the background.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've been doing for um, in my Calamity Jane mode work this past week since then, is I've been just focused on on the actual staging or the stage itself of where they're going to sit. So without further ado, let me see if this will work. I will show you the actual what I've got built.
Oh, look at that!
So here we go. That's what I want.
Wow.
This is kind of the idea I want to do. Um, Now, if I zoom out, you can kind of see there's a red carpet.
Mm-hmm.
Not some farther, so you can kind of get a lay of the land. This is our stage box. So Calamity will enter in. If you can see my mouse here, she'll enter in this way and walk through. Now, again, I'm going to marry this image with this background. So I'll probably zoom in like this, render it,
Mm-hmm.
and hang on, let me I can rotate a little bit. And then put it into our actual background here.
Okay.
It's not going to look like this. Now, I would consider this a sketch. Obviously, I mean these windows need some framing on stuff like that. I've actually done some renders. Let me see if I can pull up some stuff. Now, this is where it's getting kind of annoying a little bit. But I'm trying to do 2D renders, but they're not going the way I'd like right now. This one
Hmm.
was kind of getting more flat to what I like, but everything's kind of like the colors are fighting with each other. It's
Mm-hmm.
a mess right now,
Mm-hmm.
but you can get a sense of the stage, and that's at least, I mean, the sketch of a background is there for us to at least talk about maybe tonight a little bit. Um,
What's interesting when you bring the camera all the way down, the light, the light source seems a little funky. Like it's almost like it's being lit from below on those tables.
yeah, yeah, that's what I was saying. And
Or
again, this
no,
is
from like directly side on is what it looks like
yeah,
because you're not getting any light on on the top of the table or it looks like underneath the table either. So it looks like a completely flat horizontal light into the side of the table.
that's a good call actually. I'm glad I talked to you about this because I was like thinking like, did I model these wrong or are these off? But
No,
what's going on
check your
is
ambient light settings. It could be that because for these like since we're going with a flat color, right?
mhm.
Um, you might just want to just pump up your general ambient light source all the way. Yeah, see, there's no light hitting the tops of those objects.
Well, here's the thing: is this the so okay? So here's the other thing: is I've been using Blender for the past since we've been
Right.
talking in 3D. But to do this render, I actually brought my models from Blender into Cinema 4D because
Mm-hmm.
Cinema 4D has a sketch and tune render system in it.
Oh.
And so what it does though is they attach the lighting system to the camera. So wherever I'm looking is where
Oh,
the
I
lights come from. So that
see.
goes back to what you were just saying, and I didn't even think about that, but that's probably why.
Can you add a secondary light into the
Yeah,
space just to wash out? everything into a, just an ambient light, so everything gets a flat level of light at least before you
Yeah, I mean,
render
I
it.
could do that. And this is where my lack of knowledge with Summit 4D is going to come in, and so I kind of wanted to focus more um, on the actual setup of the stage versus
Sure.
these technical things like this. But I hear you on that. Let me see if I can actually move this around a little bit. So I'm in scale. Let me go to move. So I can move that up a little bit,
Yeah.
move it over a little bit. Now you can see the light is being impacted, so that's good.
Sure. Sure.
But I'm just wondering now. This type of light is what is this? This is a Omni Light. I can change this to a spot. Let's try that.
Sure, but yeah, make sure it's facing where you want it to.
Yeah. Now that's
That's
cutting the. What does this
yeah,
do? That zooms it in and out.
that's
I want
yeah.
to rotate this thing. How do I do that? Let's see.
I would just set it to rotate because you've got on move right now. So I go to rotate,
Yeah,
and
but
then
I've
yeah, there
tried
you
this
go.
before, and then it wasn't paying. It wasn't respecting it last time. So let me see if it'll do it this time. Okay, so far so good.
So you're gonna probably want to move the origin point out so the cone has a little bit more room to breathe. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
one of these will actually control the actual. There we go. That one
Yeah,
actually
yeah, you can make it as
controls.
wide as you want. But again, though, like what I think that you want, if your main light source is linked to the camera for the tune shader aspect, which is totally fine, then what you probably want is just a general fill light, like an ambient light source that hits everything evenly, so that even if most of your light is coming from the camera direction, you still have some ambience coming off of the top of the tables and things of that
Yeah,
nature. So a
yeah.
spotlight is it's a directional light. So like an omni light is what I was thinking you kind of wanted, um, but I don't know. I don't know camera 4D well enough.
But I will be picking your brain with camera setups in the coming weeks as we play this a little bit more because just experiment with that. But I think for
Hmm.
tonight, was gonna. Yeah, I mean to me at least I can see the top of the
Yeah,
table.
yeah, exactly. Like so, if you
There-
can figure out the ambient settings
yeah,
um, on camera 4D and just get an even light, ambience, or just in um, I don't know the system well enough, but that's
yeah,
clearly what your problem is you're just not getting any light coming off the top of the tables, and that's why they're all black.
yeah. But in the meantime, so I mean, the main thing I wanted to kind of focus on tonight.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
first of all, let's take a tour here. So, yeah, so we have these booths that are
Mm-hmm.
in the scene now. We have these tables. Um, Let me kind of zoom up and kind of pull up a little bit and rotate down. So yeah, that's kind of the general layout. Both sides of Visuals Bar will be kind of lined up with that.
Mm-hmm.
This I was thinking about adding pictures back here, like random pictures, kind of like in those. In Los Angeles, if you go to some random restaurants, you'll see these random photos of celebs and stuff
Mm-hmm.
all hanging up, on the backdrop on the wall. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know though. That one might be. I don't want to add too much geometry and too much busyness either. So we'll see about that. Um, let's see. Let me play with the colors here a little bit. So I was looking at the Comedy Store for fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I started looking at some images here. No, that's not it. That's not what I want to see. Let's see here. There we go.
I haven't been there in a very long time.
It's a fun place. I
Yeah.
mean,
Is
but I
that the
was
one
thinking
that
that
Pauly Shore owned for a minute?
he owned this. He owned Comedy
I
Store.
feel like he owned a semi-famous, so maybe it's not the Comedy Store, but he owned like a recognizable stand-up comedy theater for a
Well,
while.
his face is right here. I don't know if that
Yeah,
means.
right, exactly. So I thought he owned it for a while.
Huh. Yeah, but in general, that I was kind of thinking about this kind of vibe. It is kind of
Right.
dark, though, and I may not.
It is, but like we don't, we're trying to with Mitchell's Place. We're going for a blend of stand-up comedy bar,
Yeah,
and saloon, right? So,
yeah,
I like your idea. We've talked about this in the past of sort of the accoutrement, if you will, um, of a comedy theater, which you've got going here, and it looks great. But blended with sort of some of the more traditional ambiance of a saloon,
Of a
right?
saloon, yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll get there at that point. I mean, we still got like in this section here. We need to add I'm gonna add the treasure chest, for example, as
Mm-hmm.
we here. But it's yeah, but in general, I mean, it's better than what it was last week,
No, it's pretty
considering.
exciting. I mean, like even those. I'd love to see you try to grab one of those renders and throw it in here and
I mean, I'll
just get a
try that. Let
sense
me.
of
If
it.
I crash, then, ladies and gentlemen, Erica's gonna go solo, and I'll be crashed for a little bit. But let's try this
That's
out.
fine. I can do a song and dance. I've got a song and a dance. I've got plenty of jigs. I've just been looking for any excuse to bust out. So
Let's let me try this out here. I'm simply gonna eyeball it here. Let's pretend. Let's see right about there, maybe. I don't know.
that
Yeah,
seems
sure.
pretty good.
All right. So we'll render the picture
This is
viewer.
this is a this is a proof of concept anyway.
Now let's see how hideous this thing turns out because of my weird lighting. Okay, fine. We'll work with that.
I mean, I've seen
Yeah.
cartoons that don't look that good.
Let's see now. How do I save this?
Save image
Let's see.
as. There you go.
Yes. And we want this. I'll call it a ping.
Yeah, TIFF is what, uncompressed image?
Yeah. I think so. I think it's uncompressed, but it also has layers in it. You can actually use it for some drawing programs.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I've never really worked with TIFFs before.
I'm trying to think. Where's this going to be saved to?
Yeah, why isn't it giving you? Oh, maybe in name? Oh, options maybe?
Options did this.
Oh. Oh. Well, I don't want an interlaced ping. That's not useful. I bet it does is it's probably the same as in like Adobe that in one of the preferences menu you have to set the save directory from there. Now, Adobe you can do it elsewhere, but you can also change where the default save location is.
Mm-hmm.
I bet that's what you have to do here.
Let me just look here, see if there's anything else I need to look at here. But yeah, let me look up. Save image as. Maybe this will give me a problem. Nope.
No, it's the same exact, and it won't let you change the name if you click on that.
Let's see. Oh, it'll let me change his name. That part's good.
Oh, I see. I understand. You change it there, so when you save it, okay.
Let's see here. Exciting times trying to figure out how to save a render. That's a.
I mean, we have to figure it out because, like, if you don't know where it saves to, then it doesn't help you all that much.
I bet it saves it
It
to
probably
my.
saves to the project directory.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the same thing. So let me just try it. I'll just save it, and we'll search for it later.
All right. Let's see. We're gonna keep our fingers crossed here.
And choose for still image.
This is
Yep.
like the anticipation is killing
Oh,
me. Oh, there you go. Okay, that's why it's not there. It just lets you do it wherever you want to. Well, shit, that's far less exciting than I wanted it to be.
yeah,
I wanted like a whole scavenger hunt and.
I know. Yeah, I was anticipating that, but I guess not. Okay, my background's here. So I keep having to move our pictures around, so I'm trying to. Okay, so that's that. Now we'll make a frame here to put the imported image in, and now import desktop.
Gosh, can you believe it's March 1st already?
Yeah, it's been zooming by.
Whew, man alive, has it ever? Well, that's pretty cool, honestly. And you can like scale Clem down, throw him, change the layer on the
Yeah, let me get
windows.
windows out of the way.
Yeah.
Underneath. All right, now we got
scale Clem down a little bit. Well, how do you like them apples?
Isn't that crazy?
That's not
Yeah,
bad. I mean, that's as a proof of concept, I'd say proven.
man.
I
I'm pretty
mean,
excited too, man.
like I'm that's pretty exciting, James. I mean, for our audience who may not understand what we've been talking about, one of the challenges in animation is your camera shots. Because every time you change your camera position, you have to redraw the background. You have to redraw everything that's going on in it. And so that's why when you watch a lot of cartoons, there's not a lot of camera motion. There's very few cuts. Everything is shot from the same angle over and over again. I mean, think about the last time you watched an episode of The Simpsons. There's like, 6 or 7 different angles on the living room, right? And every single scene that takes place in the living room, there's only 6 shots ever in 300 episodes of The Simpsons. And I'm exaggerating now. There's probably more just because accumulation over the years. But you have to be very aware of where your camera position is in a cartoon, because every time you choose a new angle, you have to redraw the entire background. Except James had the bright idea to do our backgrounds in 3D using a flat shader, which is why he's thrown it into what is it, Camera 4D?
Cinema 40.
Cinema 4D. And by doing that, it not only saves us a lot of time, or saves James a lot of time, because I'm not doing any of the work here, in terms of drawing all the art, but it also frees us up to do things like, that would be a cool camera angle.
Yep.
And we can do it without having to redraw everything within the view, the frame of the camera.
Yeah. Now to give credit to the Futurama crew, that was it was them and Invader Zim. Nickelodeon has been doing this.
Yeah, Invader Zim. Yeah, there's a class. Yeah. Futurama and Invader Zim are both classic examples of this. Yeah.
Yeah, where they would meld 3D backgrounds with their 2D and then 2D on top.
And
that's here. I mean, and I think I'm pretty excited for how with how crappy the colors are and everything else, but we've got some stuff going on here that I think is exciting.
And and then to a different extent, like you'll have the Triplets of Belleville and the Emperor's New Groove. They also did some really interesting things, meshing 3D art rendered to look like 2D art in with the actual 2D animation. And I'm really glad to see that this, even as a proof of concept, it so immediately works. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm pretty thrilled too. I didn't think it worked out. Well, I thought we'd be in the middle of a train wreck.
No, but yeah. I mean, obviously you're right. We need to solve the lighting problem and find the right way to make the renders look within the style and the theme of the show, because obviously this is not ideal. But like, just as a basic, this could work. Yeah, this could work.
Yeah. It just now here's the thing, with how my limited understanding with how the 3D toon rendering world works. I'll go back to Cinema 4D for a second. The way I understand it is most programs, like from what I watched on Blender, I've watched hours and hours of just 2D rendering people talking about what they do. Typically what they'll do is they'll actually not touch the camera or light, and they'll actually affect every single bit of a material, and then change that to a 2D type of color setup, and then they won't have any reflections on or anything else. But what I liked about Cinema 4D is it's one of the first programs I saw that had a 2D render on top of your materials. You just make the basic colors, then the render has nothing to do with has less to do with the materials and more to do with the lighting. But that's where I'm fighting with it, because now I have to fight with the lighting now. But I'd rather fight with one thing than have to fight with multiple colors and trying to get every single nuance right.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, because I know, and I'm obviously a neophyte, but you and Maya is where most of my 3D experiences, because I worked in the games industry for so long. There's a way where you can just display the color with a complete flat light, right?
Yes, there is. And Blender has that, and Cinema 4D has that. But what I wanted to do, and this is where I'm being more ambitious about it, is I wanted to actually see, I like the fact that there's actually for the backgrounds, I actually wanted to have some depth to it, like some shading on it, which is what like just basic like 2 or 3 shades, like a mid, dark, and a light
Right.
for backgrounds alone. But that'll help make Calamity Jane pop off these. And
Yeah.
see, you can see they are popping off. Your eye goes to the flatter colors,
Right.
but
Well,
there's also the saturation and the colors are more muted for the backgrounds.
yeah.
A whole bunch of other stuff going on too.
But it seems like to me that that's a relatively solvable problem. I mean, it's just a standard lighting problem.
Yeah.
If your primary light source is coming from your camera, then you need to, so that. So that means that you need to have a strong fill light to help, get light on the other surfaces that aren't going to be receiving light from the camera, and then maybe a background light to add
Yep.
depth to the other things. So I mean, like with any like basic lighting setup, it's always three, right? It's the primary light, the fill light, and the background light.
Yep.
And those aren't the technical terms. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But I mean, I think fill light is correct. But you've got your primary, secondary, and a tertiary
Yeah.
fill light, right?
The other
Um,
thing that the other thing that's fun about doing it in 3D though is now we can play with temperature and mood.
yeah, that's true.
Changing the fill light to more of a warm red, like if they're outside or something, versus inside. If you want it to be cooler, change
Right.
to more blue. I mean,
Right.
there's all kinds of things we can do with it now. But yeah, that was my biggest thing I wanted to work on tonight. Was just kind of discuss with you how this is going. But yeah,
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty exciting. Yeah, that's my take.
yeah, I agree with you. I'm happy that I like happy accidents. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Um, And so, I mean, your idea is to model out the entirety of the prickly pear into
yeah,
modular segments so that
yeah,
as we move the camera around, we can turn off things that might occlude the view or things of that nature.
yeah, yeah. So back to the 3D set. I mean, this is only half of it, but I mean, I just have to mirror the other side of it, and we got the whole bar here.
Right, right, right. You're going to build out one side, the basic
Yeah.
architecture of it, mirror it, and then we can put in any unique props.
Yes.
Like as we've seen in the animatics, the stuffed bear and the car hanging from the attic and the treasure chest and all of the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tried modeling that car, the Delta 88, right?
Yeah.
Man, it kicked my butt. I'll go back to it though, but
All
that
right.
was tough. But
Another interesting like little this is us. We are, what they say about good artists borrow and great artists steal. This is another example of how we are great artists. For those of you who are fans of Sam Raimi, you'll know you'll know what the Delta 88 is, and if you don't know, then go look it up and get in on the joke with us.
then you'll know.
Then
Yeah.
you'll know, right?
It's an
Exactly.
iconic car. It's kind of funny.
No, it is, but I mean, it's something like it's a geeky thing that both James and I are very well aware of.
Yeah.
Because we've grown up watching Sam Raimi's movies.
Um, yeah. With all that being said, I'll start playing around with to wrap up our stream tonight. I'm gonna probably just play with Clem a little bit,
Okay.
knowing.
Now you said you wanted to squish his head a little bit, make it a little
Yeah, I want to make it
narrower.
more thin. I'm start playing with his body type a little bit now.
I mean, I love it when eyes overhang a head slightly.
Really?
I think it's hilarious. I don't know. There's something about that broken anatomy,
Mhm.
especially on human characters, that I think is pretty funny.
I mean, Calamity naturally already does that anyway.
Yeah,
So,
but as a salamander though, like it's
yeah,
fine. Salamander's eyes are a little bit poppy, but with a human, like it's still hilarious, right? Like that doesn't seem out of place to me, right?
Mhm.
What that does to my brain is it gives him more of a concave. Like if you were an actual human, he'd have sort of sunken in cheeks, right?
yeah.
That's
That
what
was
it kind of gives me the impression of.
that was what I was going after to try to thin him a little bit because I
Right.
wanted to. Again, it's more, like I think last week I had mentioned he's weathered. He's been out in the sun a lot, and so I think about kind of
Crow's
raising.
feet, and yeah, he's
Yeah.
a little emaciated. And,
Mhm.
yeah.
that was always been my goal with him, to design that way. But now as a writer though, like when you made up the character Clem, because so like you have a couple of them that I would consider starred, like John Boy,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and then Clem. I think Clem is kind of has a special place in your heart. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but
Well, I always love the color, the just the extras. Frankly, in every Western movie, when you walk into a saloon, it's always filled with extras for no real reason. I mean, other than to make the saloons seem occupied.
Mhm.
But they always seem to be playing poker, which I know is a pretty common trope in westerns. But I just like the idea of subverting that a little bit. And so when Calamity walks into the Prickly Pear, there's only Clem, but he still has to be playing a card game,
Yeah,
right? But what card game is a lone patron playing? Well, obviously it's solitaire, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was it's hilarious.
So it's I don't know, it makes me laugh. I don't know if it's actually funny at all, but I just like the idea, and it not only is it sort of subverting the common trope of the Western saloon in movies, but it also fits into the larger theme of the Prickly Pear, which is that Mitchell is a failed stand-up comedian. And if the Prickly Pear were filled with patrons, then that would imply something very different about his character, right?
hmm hmm
And so not only is it a gag that makes me laugh and probably nobody else, but it's also thematically appropriate for the Prickly Pear.
hmm
And so that's where Clem came from. That was my like way too much thought put into this character.
But what's funny is I think you kind of had an idea for Clem since we've been talking. I mean, about how there's more to him than just being a solitaire player now. Like he's kind of fleshed out a little bit.
And I'm reluctant to go into too many details
Yeah,
about it,
that's
right?
all I'm
But
saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
Clem does have a backstory, but I think that for me, one of the fun things is always to make backstories. Like, who are these characters? Where do they come from? And because you never know when a character is going to become a featured extra and then become a major character. I mean, I think classic examples are shows like The Office, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, especially.
hmm
Um, there were so many characters in both of those shows that started as just featured extras, basically, just color, like just to make the set looks a little bit more populated, and then became critical characters in their own right. I mean, one of my favorite, quite frankly, from Deep Space Nine is Quark's brother Rom, who started
hmm
as this completely throwaway doofus and has become like Chief O'Brien's go-to guy to fix everything, who's engaged to marry a Bajoran Dabu player, Dabo player. It's crazy the arc that this character saw, because he started as nothing. Um, and they were fortunate. I mean, they were good writers, so they could take things somewhere and go with it. But if you can give your characters a little bit of a background even before they come into the space, because I think Rom's background when they started Deep Space Nine was it's Quark's dumb brother. Like, I think that's as much thought as they put into that character.
Yeah.
But if you have a sense of who these characters are, even if you don't do anything with it, it fleshes out the world in a way that I don't know that audiences will notice, but they will notice if it's not there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, audio is a great example, right? If the audio is working flawlessly, half the time people don't even notice it. But if it's bad, they will notice it
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit of a it's sort of that last 10% that if you're doing it right, nobody will notice it, but if it's not there, people will absolutely hound you for it.
hmm
So yeah.
I always feel like with some of those ensemble shows, they just when they start running out of ideas for the main characters, then they just kind of end up going with the side characters and make them more interesting as a
Yeah.
result.
Oh, and that's definitely like The Simpsons is a classic example of that.
Yeah. they can only do so many Homer dumb jokes. Why don't we
Wow.
talk about Flanders this week? Kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, The Simpsons is an interesting example of, like, for me, it's not. I don't watch The Simpsons anymore. It doesn't really offer anything to me that I find interesting anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, I mean, like when it was still really good to my taste, um, they could introduce secondary characters that weren't a member of The Simpsons, and you'd still be totally okay with it.
Hmm.
But then you get stinker episodes too, like that one episode where it turns out that Skinner was actually not Seymour Skinner. He was Armin Tanzarian. Is that what his name
Yeah.
was? Remember
Yeah.
that?
Hmm.
Was it Armin Tanzarian? I want to say that that's what his name was. I'd have to look it up to be sure. And and it was just the dumbest. It was just such a worthless, horrible episode, and it almost seems like that they were aware of it because the episode ends with them putting the actual Seymour Skinner bound and gagged to a chair on a train car flat, and then like having the train, because Springfield of course has a train yard, a train station, having the train drive out of town, and everybody basically going, "This never happened," which may have been the funniest part of that entire episode.
Yeah, that I remember that was what I would call like it felt like the darker years of The Simpsons, where they were kind of trying to feel themselves out again, and I don't know, something about them.
It's a show that's had to reinvent itself so many times because it's been around for so long.
Yeah.
It's really interesting some of the things that are going on with it. It's such an artifact of a different generation that they're running afoul of current cultural expectations, and they're having to retcon a lot of things. And I'm not making a value judgment one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
But they're having to retcon a lot of things to contemporize it, right? Because this
Hmm.
this is a show that started in 1989. I mean, the world was
Very different.
dramatically different compared to where
Yeah.
it is now, and things that they were doing in '89, whether you like them or not, were appropriate in 1989.
Yeah, or culturally accepted or
Or
whatever.
exactly, and I think it's good that they're trying to contemporize it, right? And by the same token, it makes you wonder, like, what makes more sense? Changing what the show is to be able to stay on the air, or like letting it, fade and try doing something different, right? So
Hmm.
I don't know. And again, it's not a value judgment one way or the other. I don't have a horse in this race because I don't watch The Simpsons anymore at all. But I don't know. It's just a thought experiment.
Hmm.
And wow, that was one of my more epic rants because we're now 3 minutes over 30 minutes.
Oh, it's
Um,
all good. I've been just doing color studies while we
yeah,
talk.
yeah. No, some of these are great. I actually really like the fourth one.
For this one,
Yeah.
let's put them in there too.
Giant Clem.
Yeah. I actually accidentally cut him off, but whatever. It's okay. Throw him over there. Let's look at this guy. Yeah, he kind of sticks out quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just felt like for some reason I guess I'm more. It is kind of more. I am not like 100% on anything, but to me, Clem feels darker, so I went with this the third one for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
I like that one too. I actually like the idea of going with a non-standard color for his sombrero.
mhm.
Um, I like the white and the sort of the basic tan there. I think it's different. I like it. I think it's cool.
And I think the pros for this is it definitely makes him pop off the background, no matter what the background's not. This isn't the final background, obviously, but he because of that white hat, it is going to pop him off the background no matter what. Your eye's
Right,
going to go, to him, which is kind of what we want anyway, because it's the first citizen that she meets in Tricope Gorge.
right, right, right.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
So
actually, wow, that's crazy. And he doesn't even really talk to her.
Not really.
He doesn't. In all fairness, he really doesn't talk to anybody other than Mitchell. So, and
Yeah.
he doesn't even really talk to Mitchell. He talks at Mitchell. Like that's just the way Clem is. He's a real loner character.
Yeah.
And then again, that's why it makes so much sense that he'd be the only one going into the prickly pear. Where would a loner go if he wanted to be alone? Or the only place that no one else is going to go in Dry Gulch Gorge, and that's the prickly pear.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty good. I think lots of progress is made today. I think I'll wrap it up for us this evening and let us get on to our
Good.
regularly scheduled programming.
Sounds good. So yeah, until next week.
Until next week, everybody. Yeah. As always, you can find us on calamityjane.rocks. It'll take you to our Patreon site. And you can find us on YouTube and Facebook and all of the things. And until next week, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
All right,
Take
good
care.
night.